have a quorum. So we first have to, again, vote to suspend the rules to allow meeting by Zoom and on telephone. Could I hear a motion from a commissioner in favor of suspending the rules for an in-person meeting to permit a Zoom meeting?
I move that we suspend the rules requiring in-person meetings and proceed with a Zoom/telephone meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Idle. A second?
A second.
Okay, there was Beth seconding. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we'll proceed. So for those of you who haven't been to one of our Zoom meetings, it should work pretty much like an ordinary meeting. We'll ask that each applicant introduce themselves and state on whose behalf they're speaking. We'll allow the applicant to make their presentation using the packet. And we can, again, move through the packet, hopefully just as usual, at your direction. We'll then allow the commissioners to ask questions. We'll see if there are any members of the public who wish to speak, allow for any debate, and then a vote on each matter. So the first matter of old business was 1934 Orrington Avenue. Is there someone from Sunrun here to present this?
I can present if Megan is not on the call.
If you could just state your name for the tape, just in case.
Yes, my name is Todd Guttner, and I'm a senior consultant at Sunrun out of Chicago.
Okay, do you want to present the application, present the request?
Sure, and please forgive me for missing any formalities here, but basically the order of business is Robert Hercules, who lives on Orrington, is looking to go solar. And like most villages or homeowners associations, if the case is of a condo association, which this is not, there's always a focus on how does it look and how is it going to appear on the street. So we were asked to see if it would be viable to move the panels on the, if you look at the picture here on the lower right front of the house there, the 4 panels, we were asked if we could move those panels to the back, the north side. And again, forgive me if you guys have gone through this before, it's a reasonable request. The issue though, when it comes to solar is depending on the steepness of the roof, if this is south and this is north, if you have a flatter roof, you can get sun on a north-facing roof plane during 3/4 of the year. The challenge that we had here is that they have a 45-degree pitch roof, which means that the north side will not get any discernible effect. And we can't really put those panels there on the north side without, for all intents and purposes, making it not something that Sunrun can install. Because the efficiency goes below a number and it would cut the production by at least 40%. So in order to make it a viable design, we do have to keep the panels on the front of the house, meaning the south street-facing roof plane, which is at the bottom of the house.
Did you make any changes to the design since the last presentation, or are you basically saying it wasn't feasible to make any changes?
It wasn't feasible we were asked to take, and again, when you're looking at a map, that lower section with the 4 panels on the right-hand side, we were asked if we could move that to the back. And unfortunately, we're not able to do that without cutting production and making it unfeasible for Sunrun to do.
Okay. Do you have any other aspect you wish to present?
I think there might be some additional photos I can show you. This is what the panel that we were going to use looks like. Panels from all solar companies can have any type of look. They can be bluish, they can have a white background. This particular panel is a black panel, black cells, and what they call a black backsheet. The only thing that you are seeing through the panels are these little thin wires. The backsheet is when you look at a solar panel and it looks like blue with white coming through, the white is the backsheet. In this case, the backsheet is black. So it's a very stylish looking panel. We also, when we install the panels at the bottom towards the gutter, we install a little, what we call a skirt. It's a black thing that trails off the bottom of the panel, and it makes it look like it's built into the roof. So it's very streamlined. The other pictures, we have the panel specs, and this was the final design that we came up with. We have, it's hard to see, 6, 7, 8, 9 panels on the southeast section. And then we have 6 panels on the southwest section. I will say this, every community has a right to have as symmetrical of a design as they want. If we're looking, the customers typically want to get a design that's going to maximize the amount of production they can get. In this case, this is the max we can get. It would be feasible if you needed it to remove that single panel on the bottom, if you guys just don't like it there. Then we would have a little more symmetrical design if we did that. So, you know, you can see, I mean, if no one's really going to see the southwest corner of it, but, you know, that's 2 rows of 3 panels each. If we just remove the 2 panels at the top of the southeast array and the one on the bottom, that's really going to change it for the customer. Again, this is a personal preference. I'm clearly not on the board and I don't work for the village, but I would say if we're okay with this, this will give the customer what they initially asked for, but if you really want to make it more symmetrical, then we would be happy to get rid of that panel that's by itself there. The other designs, the other pictures we have are just more of our plans. You can see a close-up of our designs. This is from the engineer. I don't know what any of that stuff is. You know, here's another look at it. You guys obviously know what this is. The turquoise color is the village fire setback. I believe it's 3 feet from the ridge line and the rake. And so we are not allowed to put any panels in that turquoise zone. The next slide is even more closer engineering looking slide that gets you up close to what the installation looks like. And that's just another view of what it would look like from the street.
Okay.
And if there's anything else, let's see. I can explain it. Or that might be it. And I don't know what forgive me again, I don't know what your experience is with solar, but there are some things that you guys can, if you haven't ruled on this yet, we do exposed conduit. Some villages have very strict rules on that, like they might have to be painted. So you can't see them, they have to match the roof. Other villages require that the conduit is in the attic space. The problem we have in having internal conduit in this particular design is you can see at the very top of the house, that is a living space. And you can't have an internal conduit there without breaking down drywall, which increases the customer's expense to get them solar. A lot of these older houses have living space there instead of just an attic. If you have an attic, then yes, it is feasible to hide the conduit, the metal pipe that connects the arrays, and hide it in the attic. You have a problem when it's a finished space that's drywalled, because most customers, if you tell them that you're going to have to install the conduit internally, and they have a finished space, they're not willing to spend $2,000 to $3,000 to have someone tear down the drywall and you install the conduit and put it back up again. It's just usually not feasible. But like I said, it is within your say, okay, well, all conduit has to be painted to match the roof. You guys can absolutely do that. You'll have a nice, clean design if you do it that way. That's really, I think, all I had to prepare. I welcome any and all questions that anyone might have for me.
Okay, there are questions for the applicant? Julie, Commissioner Hacker.
Hi, this is Commissioner Hacker. And so I just have a question, Todd. If you took off the bottom panel, then what is the loss of the efficiency of the whole array?
It'll be a loss. It'll probably lose about 10%. They call it offset. How much can the solar offset the regular electricity? So that's measured in percentages. Mm-hmm. So this particular design, as is, I think, is 50% offset. So 50% would come from solar. In my opinion, the south is always the most optimal place. Well, it's not in my opinion. The south is always the most optimal place to install a solar array when we have the ability to do that. And removing that panel would probably drop the offset by 5 to 6%. But curiously enough, I see that we have that spire, or that whatever that thing is. Don't know how visible that single panel would be. That's just my personal.
No, you can see, I mean, you can see that whole side as you walk by, because you can see it obliquely. So I don't, it was just a question. And then
Sure.
You would paint in the conduit, you would paint to match the roof, not the panels. Is that?
Most people wanted to match the roof. A lot of the AHJs, authority having jurisdictions, villages, village ordinances, counties, they don't really care, but some are very specific. Like Orland Park, for instance, requires that any solar build that has exposed conduit be painted to match the roof.
I've got a couple questions. Can we go back? This is Dudnick, Commissioner.
Hello.
Whatever. I guess I'm on screen now. Okay, that's a good one to start. You might as well use that one. We can see the panels. I think I asked this last time because I looked back in my notes about whether you'd be able to avoid some of the issues if you rotated those panels near the front 90 degrees, so they'd be in the same orientation as the ones back of the chimney. And whether you could get another panel and whether you could avoid some of the asymmetry, whatever else. That seemed to be in my notes, along with a question about the white grid. And finally, last time we discussed that conduit, I don't know if, were you here last time?
I was not.
Okay. And the discussion was, yes, that you could go down into the attic because the impression was that it wasn't the finished attic, that they couldn't run the conduit in the attic. So I don't know, I'm hearing things that we, I think, either asked about or discussed last time. And it seems as if
I remember having the conversation about it, and that they were going to look into whether it could go into
Right.
the attic. I don't recall. I don't think we got a definitive answer. I think it was on our list of questions for them to.
It doesn't sound as if they've looked into it. And I think the answer we got from Todd is if we're not doing it because we normally don't if it's finished. And I got the impression last time that it wasn't a finished attic.
Because I wasn't there, and at the time there was somebody living up there, it wasn't proper for me to go and look. If it is an unfinished attic, then yes, we should be able to do it. If it is a finished attic space, then it becomes a hardship for most customers too. You just can't really be done. It's not an easy way to do it.
But I think the other,
I'd be happy to check for you.
the other question was about the visible grid. Given we not only have the brown shingles, and they're very brown when you look at them, and this is a really black panel, but you've got that white grid, and I think there was some question about whether or not that couldn't be resolved in one form or another, and how visible that's going to be. Are we going to be really looking at the kind of pinstriped suit?
Yeah, the way that the picture took, that's actually not white. Those are just wires. It is a black on black, but that's what they call it, BOB. It's got a black frame, black monocrystalline cells, and a black back sheet. The wires you're going to see no matter what you do. But when you look at it from the street, it's not going to really look like a pinstripe. I'd be happy to share my screen and kind of show you kind of the way the light reflects it at that angle from that height. If you'd like to see, I'm happy to share that with you. But I do think it's an interesting option to see if we can the orientation on the southeast and make it portrait without losing offset. And again, I don't know how much you guys have dealt with this, but there are some solar companies that will do mixed orientation, and those are usually, in my opinion and Sunrun's opinion, the less attractive. So we try to have a single orientation because it just looks a lot better than having this and then having that. But if you'd like us to go back and see, I can check and see, can we do that in portrait like we have on the southwest side, and can we do it without losing any offset? They don't have that data.
Well, that's what I thought we were going to see, because if you look at it, it seems as if you could even get more panels in. That's hard to tell without overlaying on the drawing because, well, we can't point here. So we're all at
It's not stopping me. I'm trying to point, but it's not working.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me either. I use my cursor and nothing's happening. So it just seemed as if you wouldn't be able to go too down from where you are, but you'd probably be able to get at least 3 or more across and still have that 3-foot fire safety situation, but you might get a few more lined up with the ones at the southwest.
Yeah, I mean, we might. I mean, I'm just eyeballing it. We might be able to just take the 6 as they are on the southwest, just move that design over, and then have 2 panels instead of 3 on the west side of the east roof plane here, if you can imagine that. So we would have essentially, 3 rows of 3, and we might be able to get another a panel somewhere on there.
Could try putting tracing paper over it and then hold it up for all the other commissioners, but I don't think.
Or we can get like 2 rows of 4. We'd have to see. It would be the dormer on the south side there. We might get into a problem there. I don't know, but yeah, I apologize for not having that data ready for you, but I'm happy to go and check that and see what we can do there.
Yeah, I think that would be good to see. I think it's just would be less busy. It would probably look better if they were on the same direction, especially because of the lines of the wires and all of that. So is it, yeah. So
it's really haphazard right now. And when you look at that first drawing you had, I think it's even worse. Not on this one, but the one where you show the roof and then the big black panels. That really looks random.
Yeah, and they don't make them. They make them in black or dark blue.
well, black is better than
Black's better.
blue.
I do appreciate, one of our questions was looking into the feasibility of moving them to the other face, and I appreciate you checking on that feasibility and explaining the situation, so that kind of narrows our focus more on the other elements and making sure the design is correct. Not correct, but
Appropriate.
appropriate. Thank you. And I do recall talking about whether or not the conduit could be buried, and you're going to look into it and come back to us. I guess I would prefer that it is put inside, but if not, if it's not feasible at all, then painting it so that it fades into the roof would be a good option.
Like I said, I mean, I don't know how many solar companies you guys have talked to, but if you'd like to see, I have a bunch of photos I can show you of various installations and how the light reflects it. It's very different. What makes solar so interesting right now is, for all intents and purposes, even though it's been around for years, it's really only been active in Illinois on a larger scale for 2 years. So it's not really ubiquitous yet. People are still like, what is that? I don't like it, or I don't like the way it looks. So feel free to ask me any questions. I'm happy to answer them for you.
Well, I think, Todd, I think having images, and just for the future as well for the commission of, if you have, images of what these look like in terms of on a roof and the sun glare and all of that, in reality, that would be useful. All that information is useful.
Would anybody be in favor of me sharing my screen and showing you a couple of pics, or it's up to you?
Sure.
I am, yeah.
Yeah. I also have a question. We're talking about painting the conduit potentially. Do you paint the larger conduit that runs down the side of the house to the meter box and everything, or how is that?
We can, but when you consider the fact that most ComEd meters, that's where the conduit runs down. It runs down to where the ComEd meter. It's usually in the back of the house, or if it's on the side, it's in the back somewhere. Most people won't see it. But most of the time that's not painted. In fact, if I recall, in Mr. Hercules's example, the meter is behind a chimney. So the chimney is towards the street and everything is behind it. So you wouldn't see it in that instance going down the side of the house.
Okay. But the panels have a new line that goes down, right? Like a unique one just for them that then meets up with the electric meter.
Exactly. So the panels are connected with a rail system, and then there's what they call rigid conduit that connects that, and then it runs down whatever side of the house, goes through it, whatever soffit, and then it gets installed into where the inverters all converge into a sun-run meter or whatever the solar company is, and then right into the ComEd meter. And in most cases, solar companies are able to do what they call a supply side tap. This is just sort of more FYI, good to know, where we kind of connect into the house without having to go into the actual electrical panel.
All right, well, why don't we try to find a way to bring this to a conclusion? First, I just want to was there anybody from the general public for any general public comment? Assuming not. Okay, in terms of commission discussion, I'm sorry, Julie, you wanted to say something?
I just want to ask a question. If, if we want to see this is a question, if we want to see this other design where they're all in portrait or parallel to each other, and we don't want to make the client wait like a whole nother month, is that something that's possible?
Oh, it's very possible from my end, but
yeah, that's what I'm talking from Chair Simon.
Yeah, I was thinking if everybody is agreeable or a majority is agreeable, I was thinking what we could do would be to do an approval, but subject to review by Carlos with a couple of commissioners of the east-facing panels, of whether they can be reconfigured to be more going the same direction as the panels to the west, and then also more definitive answers to what could be done with the conduit. So I think our approval would be subject to kind of a final sign off on those aspects. Again, if a majority of the commissioners would accept that. Is that attractive to the commissioners? We've already seen this twice and probably don't want to come back a third month.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
That's good with me.
So would this design, pending our ability to do the portrait mode and get final answers on the conduit, this would be, what do we call it, conditionally approved, unless we can do those other things? Is that what I'm understanding?
I think we don't call it that, but I think that would be a good summary. We would approve it tonight, so you don't have to come back to the commission. But the approval would be subject to those refinements. You would show a revised design to Carlos, who would then informally get a couple of commissioners to sign off.
Okay.
No, this is the front of the house.
Yeah, I could probably get that within the next day or two. I don't have any contact information for anyone. So if somebody wants to give me their email, I'm happy to give you my email.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
This is Carlos Ruiz. I'm the preservation coordinator, and you can email me. I'll give you my email right now. It's my initial C, and the last name is R as in Robert, U-I-Z as in zebra, at cityofevanston.org.
Cruz@cityofevanston.org. And
yes, C-R-U-I-Z.
Got you.
There's an I
C-R-U-I-Z.
before the Z.
Got it. And I couldn't show you any photos, but because somebody's presenting, but if you want, I can just breeze through and just kind of show you guys how some of these things look like. It's up to you.
You could, Todd, maybe you could send them to Carlos too, so we could have them and he could show them to the commission.
I'd be happy to.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Todd, can you repeat your last? I didn't catch that.
Repeat my last name?
Your last name, yes.
Gutner. G as in George, U, T as in Tom, N as in Nancy, E-R.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right. Is there any more discussion from the commissioners?
No.
Would a commissioner like to make a motion to approve this on the basis that was described?
I can try.
Okay, please do. Thank you, Aleka.
Wait, how do I start the?
That's a good start.
A certificate of,
A certificate of appropriateness subject to review.
Aleka.
Yes.
Make it a motion.
I make a motion to,
Oh, I have a motion. I make a motion to approve a certificate of appropriateness subject to review of a revised design as discussed, looking at the reorientation of the east roof panels and a review of the conduit, options for the conduit being either hidden within the house or painted to match the roof,
Oh,
to be reviewed by
conduit to
to be reviewed by the couple members of the commission and Carlos Ruiz for approval, final approval. That was a very messy motion. That's why I don't make motions.
yeah. I think you just have to say for 15 rooftop solar panels and then the applicable standards.
For 15 rooftop solar panels under the applicable standards,
That's a lot.
which I don't have in front of me.
It's alteration 1 through.
Alteration 1 through 3, 5, 9, and 10.
Thank you. A second, please. Elliot,
I'm
second.
never making a motion again.
I'll second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay. Thank you. So, Mr. Gutner, if you have questions about the procedure, just contact Carlos. And
I'd be happy to. And also, if anyone, I'll send Carlos my information. If anyone's curious about it, what does it work? How do these options look like? That's what I do for a living, and I grew up in Chicago, and I'm pretty passionate about this, and I'm happy to talk with anyone that wants to know how does this whole thing work.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Good, he's a good guy.
All right, bye-bye.
Goodbye. The second order of old business is 1312 Church Street. I see Mr. Yoon on the screen who will make his presentation.
He's a non-original.
Yes, sir. Thank you again for your consideration. In summary from the last meeting, I believe there was some acceptance that a cedar shingle roof is not as appropriate for 1312 Church, especially for the front porch. Our initial proposal to replace the entire roof in metal standing seam was not acceptable to the commission. We now propose that only the front porch roof be standing metal seam and the rest of the roof be architectural asphalt tile. This follows another house on Asbury, as shown in the presentation. Additionally, an example of our proposal, I hope is there. I apologize, it may not be, but I do have a screenshot of it if necessary. Significantly, this actual proposal is the foremost recommendation for the house by Hanson Roofing. So what is shown is 1735 Asbury, which is about a block north of our location. And there is a standing metal seam roof just on the front porch. And the rest of the roof is asphalt. If we proceed, I believe there is, yes, just a few more photos of that particular house. I think if we scroll back, there are examples. There is one example of the 1312 Church completely in architectural asphalt, as seen there. These were the sample photos supplied by Hanson Roofing for the proposed architectural asphalt. And I am not sure if that photo of the house with a metal standing roof on the first floor porch and architectural tile is in there, but if with your permission, I can share it on the screen.
Sure, if you're able to do it, if it works.
I think the presenter needs to stop sharing their screen in order for me to share mine. Okay. Can you see that? So that is, and I apologize, this is not a professional rendering, but it does show standing metal seam on the first floor porch, as well as the proposed architectural asphalt tile on the rest of the house.
I believe Carlos.
Earlier, Ms. June,
Yes.
I looked at the file earlier, and if you zoom in, you see the seam, the standing seam, like that, because it's small, it's all not defined. But if you zoom, you might be able to show the seams on the porch.
Is it zooming now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good, I guess, a slide that shows some of the standing seam in relation to the asphalt shingles.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to present before questions?
No, sir.
Okay. It looks like Commissioner Hacker had a question.
Yeah, so the asphalt that you first showed us, the pattern, was different from this, and I think, so you can get different patterns. This particular pattern that you're showing here is not, for me, it's not acceptable. It's like this strange design. The one that you showed us, the first image that from Hanson was different. So I think that would be acceptable. I think you have to be really clear like which pattern it is. And the other thing I would ask you to do is, in terms of the standing seam, the dimension between the seams, I mean, these things sort of change the scale. So I don't know what you're asking for, but it seems that there's some confusion about what asphalt shingle you're using. There's many different patterns, so.
Thank you, Commissioner Hacker. If we could go back to so the two patterns that were recommended by Hanson Roofing, the second panel, I think it's the one, the next one is the actual one that was given to me by the company as a rendering. The previous panel, I do not have a rendering of that particular pattern.
So the one, because I don't think I would vote, the one that you showed us, the last one that was on the house, is a kind of weird something. I don't know what it is because it's sort of an L-shaped pattern. And so which one is that? That's not this one?
No, I believe it's the next one.
So, because it doesn't look like, it doesn't look like that either if you go back to the image. So I have to, if you go back to the image of the house, so I'm not opposed to asphalt. I'm just, there's some patterns that are simpler and more appropriate. So, but I don't, what's this one called? I'm just going to look it up on another.
That one is called
Heritage.
Heritage.
Okay. I mean, do other commissioners see that on the house? It's sort of this weird shingle approach, but it's asphalt so go back to the image. Like if you would go back to the image of your house with the rendering on it.
Oh,
I think that was the last image.
I'm not sharing my screen anymore.
The next one.
Would you like me to share my screen again?
I don't think, well, yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Does everyone see what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. And there's a simpler shingle that might have been the first one that I think would be more appropriate, the pattern.
Julie, I don't think the rendering we're looking at now is that Tamco Heritage.
I know. I'm just trying to figure out what we're voting on. Which one?
The image that is shown was actually provided by Camco. So I apologize. I don't know what to tell you other than that this was the actual image provided by Camco. I do understand that there may be a scale issue. I believe that is what is making this look not quite right.
It just doesn't, this shingle, so what is it? Elliot, what do you think it is? I'm just trying to pick.
I think it's a scale issue because I've got that shingle on my house.
It doesn't look like that.
Look like that.
Okay, it's just like pretty regular.
Well, they're much more regular. I mean, there is a variation in the color because that's the theory behind.
Well, that's okay. Yeah, I get it.
But you're right. This one looks like they're lapped over.
Right.
This looks almost like real shakes. that
Right.
someone randomly nailed on.
Right.
Again, I apologize for the scale issue, but this was the actual image provided by Tamco.
So Elliot, what is I'm just going to look it up on my phone here. It's Tamco?
Look up Tamco, and I think it's called, what, Heritage?
Yes, sir. Heritage weathered wood.
Weathered wood is there's all sorts of colors. That's the color.
Got it.
We call it that.
Oh, okay. It looks really, okay.
Yeah. And the other one was what? Certainteed, and I think it was also a weathered wood. That's his other sample.
And again, these are the two tiles that were recommended by Hanson Roofing.
Well, okay. So the one I'm looking at online, the Heritage laminated asphalt shingle, weathered wood, that's the color. And that patterning looks fine to me. So
Yeah, it looks different when you look it up online. It's more regular, it's uniform, it's
right. Right.
Image online, it kind of looks like it's almost like a zigzag pattern.
Right. Okay.
I apologize.
No, that's okay. I was just I wanted to make sure, because there are some that actually there are some that look like this that are more trying to look like shakes. So I just want to make sure, but this, so I'm sorry to belabor this, but in your description, do you list which asphalt shingle you're using?
I have the two options that were given to me by Hanson Roofing.
You want to go back to, I think that was number 44 and 43. Is that right? I don't know if, do we need Scott to take over again?
Yes.
Yeah, let's just make that part of the motion, which one it's going to be.
Yeah,
Right.
the Hanson Roofing proposal doesn't say what the shingles will be. It just says architectural shingle.
Well, the Heritage looks, so this one looks okay.
Yeah.
I mean, which one? There were two, the Tamco or this one?
Correct. The previous slide has the other.
Which one do you want to use?
I'm sorry?
Which one did you want to use? Which brand?
I think the weathered wood is the one specifically recommended by Hanson. So they are very good. They've been holding my hand through this whole process.
Uh-huh.
This is actually, again, when I talked to George at Hanson, this is exactly what he would do if it were his house.
Right. So, okay. So it's the Tamco. Is that what you want to use?
Yes.
And then do you know the spacing of the metal siding, the spacing of the
I do not know the exact spacing.
Okay. I would just ask that when, if I'm assuming this will move forward because we did talk about it last week unless other commissioners are opposed, but I would like that you were able to specify that
Definitely.
and give that information to Carlos.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think you could go, I don't know how everyone else thinks, but you could go, 8 inches, or
Duly noted.
you could see if there's some price break and something is easier, and then you could let us know as well, but I would start there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, again, the proposals from Hanson don't specify any of this. They just don't have any good specs or description. All right, was there any public comment on this matter? Any other comment from the commissioners? Elliot? Elliot, you're muted.
Sorry. All right, there. The issue of the metal roof, Julie, you were talking about the spacing of the ribs, but that one image makes it look as if the verticals on the ribs were really short and very low. And I would like to know, because typically they're much higher. I mean, it's not very distinct. If you look at that rendering, it almost looks like somebody drew stripes on the metal roof. And I think most of us know that on the standing seams, they're probably going to be up about 4 or more inches. And I think it's going to be a much more pronounced image than what we're seeing in that rendering. I'm still bothered by the switching of material. I mean, that's a separate issue.
Yeah, but you can flatten them, you know, you don't have to have them sticking. You can flatten them.
But that's, we don't know how he's installed. We're not seeing that. I mean, all we're being told is it's a standing seam roof. So that's the question. Yeah, you can have them where they actually literally fold them over to the point where you just have this flattened segment every so many. Probably they're going to be about 2 feet apart, by the way, depending on.
No, you can get them narrower together.
Well,
like 8 inches or 10 inches is probably, we don't want 2 feet apart. It's going to really change the scale. Well, I would probably disagree with you, Elliot, because since I've seen it, you can see that through Evanston. There's a house on Judson that just did that, I think 8 or 10 inches. And then if the seams, for me, if the seams are standing, Huck, you should probably look at what both of those look like. Because, there's the standing seam and then there's one that's folded over. You should just make sure you understand those choices.
Yes.
Are you talking to Hawk?
I was talking to Hawk, not you. I was talking to Hawk, Mr. Yoon.
To be honest, the example on Asbury is the what I had envisioned. And I apologize. The rendering is inadequate. I apologize for that. But the Asbury roof example is what I had envisioned.
Yeah, and that looks to be about maybe, I don't know, 10 inches a foot apart and a couple inches high, Elliot.
Oh, where are we looking at that? Where's that one?
Yeah,
There?
the 1742 Asbury.
1735 Asbury. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right there. Yeah.
Okay.
But certainly I would provide the exact specifications.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so we could, the Hanson roof proposal just doesn't have any specs in it. So I think we could, again, ask that Hanson provide both for the design of the roof and the of the asphalt roof, and then the specs for the metal roof. I think we could ask that they come back and have those approved before the project goes ahead. Any other discussion? Julie, do you want to try to make that motion since there were your qualifications?
Okay. All right. I move that we issue a certificate of appropriateness to 1312 Church Street to replace the non-original cedar shingle roof, which was previously an asphalt shingle roof, with a new asphalt shingle roof, and the lower roof to be a metal standing seam roof, which is the first floor porch roof. And with the provision that we get a specific proposal for the type of asphalt shingle and the type of metal roof, including the spacing of the seams and whether they're standing or flattened. And the applicable standards are alteration 1 through 6, 9, and 10.
Second. Aleka, second. All in favor, please say aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Mark, did you
Yeah, I'm
ask
sorry,
for-
Elliot.
Did you ask for public comment?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay, because I noticed that we got things from Mary McWilliams, and she's on here tonight, or she's in the audience. And I know we got 2 items relating to this today in the email, and I was wondering if that was part of our discussion.
I think Carlos had requested it because it was, Mary happened to have the historical
scanned in.
documentation.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment just thanking Carlos and Mary for providing, because I was uncomfortable on making a final decision on a landmark without the information on how or when it, under what criteria it was landmarked. So thank you under these trying times of not being able to get into the Civic Center for providing that information.
Yeah, I want to thank you too. But interestingly enough, it doesn't mention the material of the roof.
No.
I know, and that made me a lot more comfortable.
Just saying, like,
Yeah.
why not?
So I can offer a little bit of history, but not of the roof. Back in '91, I looked it up. I actually did an addition on the back of this building and got a preservation award.
Good for you.
I don't know if Hawk knows that. I don't know how many owners ago that was. But it was 91, 92. I didn't even remember it until I went back and looked at the building. It's too many years ago. But I don't recall the roof at all, and I think the roof was done after. That 92 roof that you talk about, I think occurred a year later.
Okay, I think the voting kind of got, I think we better just vote again. So all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Were there any opposed?
Yeah, I'll oppose.
Okay. And any abstentions? Okay, so all the commissioners were in favor except Elliot opposed. All right, thank you. So again, you'll for the applicant, you'll come back to Carlos with the more detailed specs from Hanson, and then he'll get you informal sign off.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Moving on to new business, the first matter of new business is 1214 Forest. Mr. Janicki, are you presenting this? You're on mute.
He's there.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Are you going to scroll through the images and I'll just talk about them, or how do you want to do it? You're controlling this, right? Or am I?
Yeah, I think Scott's controlling it.
Oh, okay. Maybe just get to the first plan. Maybe these are just the site plans. Oh, okay. Well, here's the original house on Forest, and then you can see the photograph below that is where the work is going to take place on the back of the house. And you see there's a little small addition that was put on who knows when. I couldn't find any record of it, but it's sort of got this weird fenestration that doesn't match any other fenestration on the house. And that was one of the first things we started talking about on this project. But they have a, if you want to keep scrolling. Thank you, Scott. You can see there's an existing canopy. It's sort of like a transitional Queen Anne prairie style house, and you can see real prairie. This canopy is really super prairie. So it's got a lot of details like that on it, as well as the eaves and the shape of the roof, sort of really, really prairie. You can scroll some more, I guess. You see, the kitchen was very inefficient and very narrow, and so we had this idea of flipping it and buying up the space of that weird little attendant thing that they put on the back, who knows when. And then at the same time, try to make the entire back of the house look like it all belonged together as one sort of gesture. There are some casement windows, they're original, in the room just adjacent to, on the south side, just adjacent to where you see that dining table. And so we pulled, if we want to keep going, so when we're doing this, there's a blown up plan of how we're doing it. And you can see, that's fine. You can see on the left side, this elevation, the strange window, and then these are the casements on the right side. What we're proposing is matching the casement windows on the south side. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thanks. We're leaving this existing double hung in place, and the French doors, we're putting a different transom over because the transom they put over it was just a single sheet of glass that was sort of done by a carpenter. And so we want to put up something that had, you know, the mutton bar configuration, the glass size, and the glass orientation was consistent with all the others of the French doors. And then we put the canopy on because basically those French doors are now leading into a slate floored room that becomes like a great room, I'm sorry, a mud room, where people can come in with their snow boots on. But we needed a canopy over something because right now you're just standing in the rain looking, fumbling for your keys. And so they wanted someplace where that was protected, which is why we sort of borrowed the shape of the front door canopy and sort of, you know, emulated it for the rear. I guess you can keep going. Here you can see on the left side, the old configuration in that attendant little piece. And then we're just basically putting a double hung window that matches the house in its place. You can keep going. So in the back of the house, you see now that attendant piece is still there. We haven't taken it off. We simply changed the fenestration in it. Again, you can see the canopy. All the stuff you see on the right side, which all these sort of arbor kind of structures and railing, they all exist. We're not changing those. If you want to go to the next one, you can kind of get a better glimpse of, you know, the massing. It's pretty straightforward. We're just going to repair the shiplap siding and continue it, you know, as its major, you know, as the major material. We don't want to change anything at all there. And then if you keep going, just see kind of a close-up of how the casements are wrapped in casing that matches the other casings in the house with a little crown piece on the top that the back band dives into. And then you can see a kind of a better view of the brackets that come out and hold that canopy, which again is sort of a more diminutive version of the one at the front door. And a little more of the same. And you see a new window, oh, I'm sorry, there's a new window, a double hung window on the south elevation of that small addition that they put on many years ago. So that's more or less what we're trying to do.
Okay, questions from the commission? No. Is there any public comment? Any discussion by the commission? Nope. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve this matter?
I'll do it.
Okay, please, Elliot.
I move that we issue a certificate of appropriateness for 1214 Forest for I think it's really the modifications on the exterior because the new kitchen and that don't apply to us, with a new canopy over new French doors, new casement windows on the west facade, adding a double hung window on the south, and removing an existing window on the north facade. Applicable standards for alteration 1 through 7, 9, and 10.
Is there a second? Commissioner Hacker seconds. All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand. Aye. Were there any opposed? Any abstentions? So it's unanimous in favor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it.
Bye, Paul.
Bye.
Next matter, 632 Garrett Place. Says Gage Carroll applies for certificate of appropriateness.
Hi, I'm here. Can you guys hear me from Segura Solar? My name is Angel. I'm the Director of Permitting and Design for Segura, and will be representing the homeowner, Mr. William Best. The proposal is to install roof-mounted solar on his home. I know the layout of the system is probably going to be what's most in question. The first thing that I want to explain is something I think you guys may have heard earlier in the call when the representative from Sunrun was on. Where the panels are currently placed is the most optimal placement for them. When we start to move them or rearrange them on a roof space, we lose the offset. So to kind of explain that, let's just say Mr. Best pays $500 a month to ComEd. We can install the system on his home and offset the bill by a certain percentage. When we start to move these panels, we mess with that offset. So we would be basically moving the system, which results in a negative offset, which means there's kind of no point for him to have solar on his home. Like the person from Sunrun said, we also install low profile black on black panels with low profile attachments on the roof. We also can paint conduit to match. There will be conduit ran from there's actually a diagram of it somewhere on the application, but there will be conduit ran from the back inverter all the way down to the ComEd box. Do you guys have any specific questions or anything I'm not covering? This is the first time I've attended this, you guys' meeting, so.
So the conduit plan is at page 81, where there's little dashed red lines. Is that where the conduit's going to be going?
No, ma'am. That's actually just our string setup, so that's for an electrical designer to see. I think it's on here. I may have it on my personal one, but if you look on the top of the page, you'll see CB, ACD, UM, and MSP. Right, yeah, right there. The plan would be to have from the last panel where it says SD, that stands for Solideck, so that's to hide the wiring. The plan would be to conduit down from the Solideck down to the main service panel and the utility meter. So we wouldn't be zigzagging conduit or going across roof lines or anything like that. It would only be down the roof line. Most of the time we try to hide it as much as we can under the roof line and then down into the MSP and the utility meter.
Were there any depictions of the house with the panels from the street view?
We have some 3D renderings we did from different parts of the street. It was hard for us to get the specific street that was requested because of the tree lines. We basically would be putting solar panels floating on top of trees. So we couldn't really make that 3D rendering.
Unfortunately, I think those weird renderings don't really illustrate anything for me.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just
I agree.
sort of lollipop trees and gumball trees, and you don't see the house.
You can speak up yet.
Right. If you scroll, I think there was a Google image search that we did on here we had our engineer try to go ahead and put the panels on there for us. And from the street view on Google search, we weren't able to place them from the view that was requested. In here, here it is.
Which one?
He has it on here right now. This is what we were, whenever I spoke with Mr. Ruiz, he said like this would be, our best bet to try to put them on here. And unfortunately, they would just be floating in the air from right here.
Because I think a lot of those other views are aerial views, which really aren't an issue.
So one of the problems that we have is it's really hard to tell what these things look like in terms of your depiction of them in your documentation. So that I think is, so it's not that I'm saying like these aren't acceptable. It's just that it's like almost impossible. And the really abstract drawings you made don't help us because they don't show the scale of the building. They're just, or anything. So it's too abstract. So is there, and this is the one image, but then you can barely see it really to understand it. So is there another way that you think that you can depict the building to show these panels?
Yeah, so our next attempt after this was going to be to send a technician out to the home. We did not want to have to obviously incur the cost of rolling a truck out for pictures. But the best we can do would be to have him stand in a 360 as much as he can, obviously, because, there's other homes on the block, and try to do it from there. But that is our next best idea. I don't know how many other solar companies would be able to do it. I don't know. I mean, we typically, and you guys are your own jurisdiction, we understand that totally. We typically don't have an issue with what we supply, but I do understand.
Yeah, it's just, I just want to say that if you look at the previous, the solar company that just presented, and they also, was it the same other commissioners, was that the same company that presented last month? They actually sort of had the package more accurately down in terms of what they were showing that that would help us make that assessment. So it might be useful to look at the documentation that they have, but we're just looking at some like what the best you can do, but even like this photograph is sort of hard to understand, and other commissioners speak up, but I can't.
Yeah, the one thing I would say, having gone by the house, and I think this picture, when you go by the house, this picture is really what you see.
Right.
Yeah.
And you really can't see the roof.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I'm a little concerned about as well about approving something without being able to see it. But I'm wondering if it's even, unless it's visible on the lower roof, I don't know that you could actually take, any picture and show the roof in a way that would be visible. I just don't know that that anything would be visible.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry.
No, I think you can take photographs of the house. And then even if you couldn't, if you're like, they're not visible, that we could just see the facade, what you see of the house, because this is the only image. So
I think this is, I agree with Mark. When you go by the house, in this project's, as opposed to the other project we were seeing, the roof slope is a lot more shallow, and it's not as obvious seeing the panels on top of the house. I am wondering, one question I have is just verifying from the packet, like, again, the colors of the panels, the colors of the mounting system, some of that information.
There are spec sheets included in the packet. They're black on black panels, so that means it has a black glass screen with black railing on the side, metal railing, and then the mounting hardware is silver. It's metal mounting hardware that clamps onto black rails. But you do not see that unless you go on the roof and look under them. We also have guards or rails that we could also install as well if it became a major issue. Again, this solar mounting plane that we use are low profile, so they're not sitting very high off the roof. I actually pulled a photo to show, if I'm allowed to show what they look like sitting on a roof plane. And I also would like to express that due to the fire setbacks that we're working with, we can't really move them around at all. If you look at the layout that shows the actual panel layout, there's really not much room due to shading to move around, and also with the fire setbacks. And I just want to make sure that I'm expressing that this is the best optimal, makes sense for the customer location of the panels.
Yeah, I think our concerns are simply that the depictions don't show us. I mean, we don't know that there's anything wrong with it, but we're a little uncomfortable that we know what you're doing based on the, again, just this one image of the house from kind of far away, without really an effort to, take some kind of image from the best view possible and depict what the panels would look like. I mean, it may just be fine, but I think we're just uncomfortable approving it without having a little more comfort as to what it would look like.
Right, and again, I just want to say, I can send a technician out here and go ahead and take as many pictures as we can, but with a normal height person standing on the street, I don't think we will see the top of the roof. If you scroll up there, and I understand that the 3D model is not the best for everyone to look at, but there are a couple, I think, that are at a little lower level than being an aerial view. And again, they're kind of hard to see with the trees that surround the home and also the other home on the block.
Page number.
All right. Do the commissioners feel that we should we should ask the applicant to come back just with better depiction? I mean, I don't know what people feel.
Mark?
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you. When you go there, the angle of the roof, and I think somebody else said this as well, those, especially at the front, let's call it the north end of the house, they're really the equivalent of dormers on both sides. And you really can't see, given the angle or the slope of the roof, you're really not seeing very much of anything that's placed there. I think what confuses the issue when you look at this, ironically, of all of the views that they gave us, is this house is really hard to follow, and there's roofs in all directions. And I have a feeling that as you work your way, the bests think that's pretty cute. But I think that as you look your way around it, you can't tell what the roofs are doing. And when you look at the view that we're all looking at now, I just did a count because it's not in the application. There's 36 panels. I mean, we just finished talking about 15 panels. And there are 36 panels that we're looking at here. You can't really tell. I agree with your initial observation, Mark, because if you're standing to the east of the house, sort of looking towards the west on Garrett and towards the house, you really don't see much. That's the one view, because if you go past the house, turn around and start looking east or southeast, there's this enormous tree. I'm not sure if it's their tree or the neighbor's tree. And I think when that tree goes, they may get a lot more solar gain, but they'll also start to expose a lot more of the house. I'm not sure that all the views we're asking for are really going to show us a lot more. I mean, in this particular case, I'm not sure we're going to gain anything. I do have a question about the silver that she mentioned. And I think last time we had somebody discussing that there's a skirt that hides the panels between the panel and the roof. And maybe that hides some of that hardware and maybe some of the conduit. I think we ran into that at the last meeting, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know if anybody else thinks that's going to be important again, given what this roof is like.
Yeah, I was wondering how far up off the roof the panels are. Like how much of a open space between the panels and the roof is there?
To give you an exact measurement, I wouldn't be able to tell you that. Several inches. I can actually show you a picture. I can show you a picture that would kind of give you an idea of what mounted panels look like on a roof plane with a large slope, which is the complete opposite of this home that we're looking at. Their roof doesn't slope much. So I can just show you guys so you can see what exactly it looks like if you guys give me privilege to share a screen.
Yeah, I'd like that.
Sure.
Can you guys see?
Yeah.
So does this, is there a skirt? There's no skirt on this one, right?
Ma'am, no.
And is this the black on black that we're seeing?
Yes. Yeah, this is black on black. It's actually called like a mono crystal. It is less reflective. Also doesn't show like very obvious white grid lines like blue panels do. The point of this is to be less conspicuous, to not look like you have big giant blue tiles on your home.
Okay. I don't know if that I asked if there's any member of the public who wanted to speak to this matter. No. Let me flip the question I asked. Is there any commissioner who thinks that we should have a more revealing depiction brought back to us? Julie? I'm sorry, Ken, you also? You're muted.
Just, I guess from the street views that we have, I just don't think the roof is very visible no matter what's going on with it. So I don't think there's a way to do a rendering that shows what they would look like from the street because you don't really see them much.
I agree.
We're kind of looking at the edge of a line because it is a shallow pitch roof.
Yeah.
I concur. I don't, in this case, I don't have a problem. I don't think that bringing back the additional photos are going to give us much more information. My question for the other commissioners, and I honestly I'm looking for input to wrap my head around it, is if it would look better, if we should require it to have the skirt or not. I don't know. What do people think about that?
In the view that she showed us a minute ago of somebody else's roof, if you looked at I guess it was the gable end, not the view of the panels, you could see that those panels were floating above the roof. So you'd probably see that here, but maybe that would reassure everybody that
that's
get through and that it's removable.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I was thinking, is that might be good. It might not be as dense, and therefore it's a removable item that from historic preservation standards is a good thing.
If you look carefully at the detail that they showed for mounting, it looks like there's an incredible number of bolts going right through the shingles and the sheathing and all the rest.
Yeah, and I don't know if seeing the brackets,
Looks like a mess when they take it off, but It's not for us. We
But
probably,
that is a question for all the commissioners, is I don't know what people prefer or what guidance we want to give is, is it better that it's floating, or is it better that we're sure that the brackets are hidden? I mean, I feel more comfortable if everything, all the brackets and everything, even though they're pretty hidden, were black, but I know that some of them aren't. So I don't know. Does anybody else have a view on that, or is it not significant to people?
I just can't even tell, so can't comment.
All things being equal, I think the versions that have the skirting and that kind of make it look complete and solid are probably preferable.
Yeah. I just want to ask the applicant, that you were asked if there was skirting on the image of the other property of your sample. Were you saying there was no skirting on the Garrett?
No. Right now, we do not have Mr. Best's home designed with skirting, and the picture I showed also did not have skirting on the with its guards is what we call them, but no, none there.
Is there any reason you wouldn't include those?
It's not standard. It's not something we do. It's never needed, honestly. Most of the time, the only time we do them is in very high squirrel populated areas, honestly. So it's not a standard thing that is done. Of course, we want to satisfy the committee, so it's something we could definitely provide.
I think you just gave it away. I would say, just for the reason of squirrels.
A lot of trees.
We just had 9 squirrels trapped out of our eaves.
Well, we don't have a purview over squirrels, so.
Squirrel, if you give them that 4-inch space between the bottom of the panel and the roof, they'll be nesting in there. I mean, they will. That's guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak from experience. We don't see, I've been in solar for about 10 years. I've only ever seen one squirrel situation, I guess we would call it. But it is an option. We do offer it to customers. It's honestly a mesh skirting, black mesh skirting. It's not, I don't know what you guys are thinking it would look like, but it's not metal sheeting or anything that's not going to completely enclose this solar array to make it like with the roof. It won't build a barrier.
All right, Elliot, you're on mute.
Oh, I said there it might be a cost issue too. So she's not mentioning that, and that's up to the Bests.
Well, I mean, at this point, we would be willing to cover that cost. I mean, that's not a major issue for them.
It seems like the commissioners would feel more comfortable with that. It had, I'd say in most of the projects we have approved in Evanston, it has been covered.
You're right.
And we do have an extremely high squirrel population here.
I hate to tell you, but it's also raccoons.
Yeah.
I hope a raccoon is not on top of someone's roof under their solar panels.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Elliot, do you want to bring a motion to approve this matter?
Thanks, Mark. I want to add something here because this really didn't quite follow the format. I move that we issue a certificate of appropriateness for 632 Garrett Place for the installation of, hold me to this, 36 roof-mounted solar modules in the pattern shown on the applicant's drawings to be set on both the east and west sides of the existing residence. applicable standards, alteration 1 through 3, 5, 9, and 10. I don't know if I got everything in.
Is there a second? Aleka, a second?
Oh, I should have added with a skirt.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Do you want to amend your motion to add the?
Yes, I have to. I'm sorry, I forgot the skirt. With the addition of the manufacturer's standard skirting material around the perimeter of the panels.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Aleka seconded.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Julie, you're opposed? And then abstention. So I think one opposed. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last matter of new business is 1133 Forest Avenue.
Yes, hello. My name is Maggie Hatcher, and this is my husband, Simon Landon. We are the new owners of 1133 Forest, and we're here to discuss the proposed siding. As you may know, there was significant damage from a hailstorm to the existing aluminum siding, and we're hoping to replace it with true cedar, a premium double 4-inch seal siding with baked on color and a wood grain texture. While we know this product does not exactly mimic the smooth aluminum that's there now, the exposure will remain the same and will significantly improve the long-term quality and durability of the siding. We have included a few pictures of a house with the same transformation we are requesting. It's on page 7 and 8 of our packet, of our individual application. If you just scroll a couple more pages.
Yeah, these are images of the house and some of the hailstorm that affected it.
So this is, if you stop here, this is the old, there was a house with the same aluminum siding. It got replaced with this true cedar, and you can see the top level has the double 4-inch steel siding that we are requesting. Our understanding of the requirements for modifications in a historic district is that any alterations maintain the integrity of the structure to the public way. And if you scroll to the next page, you can see that there is the wood grain texture in question is subtle and very undetectable from a short distance away. You can see that close up. It is very minimal, if any. The overall appearance of the product is smooth from any of the vantage points that we mentioned. And we also wanted to say that we are not going to be residing the garage, which would allow the alley view to remain as is. On a personal note, my grandparents grew up and got married in Evanston. My parents got married and raised their family in Evanston, and we are very proud to be raising a 4th generation Evanstonian, our 11-month-old son, Miles. This city has and always will be my home, and both the historic location and style of 1133 Forest Avenue were major factors in our decision to purchase our forever home. We would not select a siding product that would jeopardize the historic integrity of this house, the neighborhood, or the city. And we would like to reassure all of you that we take great pride in residing here and believe that the update we are requesting meets all of the requirements.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. No.
A question from commissioners? No. Was there any public comment? Elliot, you're on mute if you're speaking.
Sorry. What other materials were considered that it went to this embossed steel?
So we did look at aluminum. The damage that was done by the hail calls into question the quality of aluminum. The double 4-inch exposure specifically is very hard to find in aluminum. And, you know, due to the nature of the damage, we were interested in finding something that would have a more lifetime guarantee to improve, you know, the quality of the product as well.
I have a question, and I don't know, Ken, you may have been involved in it as well. This is for Scott, Carlos. About 2 weeks ago, we discussed or had these emails about 1207, was it 1207 Judson, that had to do with aluminum siding that was damaged by hail, and they wanted to replace it, and we were asked to make comments about it so that it didn't come before the commission. And I'm curious why, number one, why this one is here and that one wasn't, or vice versa. And I know I made a comment about using hardy board.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask why maybe hardy board wasn't considered here, which at least is a solid color all the way through as opposed to a painted surface. But I think I will say offhand that what I think I wouldn't have done with hardy board either is this sort of fake wood grain textured, which you could probably only get if you sandblasted the wood away. You'd never see this on a real board. I mean, if you go and look at old houses and you look at painted wood, you're not going to see this kind of grain. And I'm just not sold on this, not the steel, but the wood grain embossment.
Could we have our contractor who's here as well just make a comment, or are we just restricted to us?
Maybe for
yes, you can have your contractor make a comment.
Okay.
I'm sorry, they're responding to this question as to the materials, or?
Yeah, this is Carlos again.
Oh.
It was a consultation from the new owner of that house, whether they could use the hardy board, what would be the chances. It was not an application that was formalized. So they will be coming in front of the commission. They just want to know what would be the the chances for them to get approval if they switch from aluminum to the hardy board, because they don't want to go back to the cedar either. And not aluminum because it's all dented. So they felt that the hardy board would be a better product. It would be more similar to wood. So it was a question. They wanted to have some feedback from the commission before they pursue their application. So they will be in front of the commission, if I understand correctly, with the hardy board application.
Well, I'm glad we're not seeing an option of vinyl.
Yeah.
First of all, sorry, suddenly I'm in the dark, so. Anyway, I just noticed that. I'm assuming because you're replacing this, you're taking off the existing damaged siding. So I would, I agree with Elliot that, this stamped metal siding is absolutely not one of the choices I would ever make, and I would go to hardy board before that. So I don't know, is it, obviously if it was a question of cost or whatever, but if you were going to do aluminum, I think that the embossed material is probably, it's a difficult one to accept. So I don't know, did you look at hardy board?
We actually did ask about that, and we were told that it needed to be a metal, like an aluminum, because that's what's there now. So we did look at, we were interested in other options. And so our stance is basically that this is a higher quality, and while there is a grain texture to it, you can't see it unless you're this close to the panels. But we would be open if,
Oh, well, if your contractor's there, does he know why you wouldn't do hardy board? I'm just wondering, because that's a material that I don't know about the other commissioners, but that I would accept before.
okay, well, we were told previously that because there's aluminum now, that it would need to be aluminum or.
At least that's what we thought.
Yeah, so
But
if
that's
the
not
hardy board
case-
is acceptable, then we would be open to that as the update as well.
Well, I'm just one commissioner, but that's what, I don't know, Elliot might agree with me that hardy board is more acceptable.
Well, I think it's.
If I can respond to the question.
Yeah.
Initially, I was dealing with the former owner, Mr. Sanders, who had applied for the, not the aluminum, but the material that they're applying for. So my answer to them was, I can only approve administratively if they use the same aluminum siding or if they decide to restore the cedar underneath. So he said, well, the buyers of the home want to have this other material. So that was the answer. It's not that. So I said, well, then they had to go to the commission because I cannot approve that material.
Got it.
Oh.
But we necessarily did not discuss the hardy board because that was not the question.
I understand.
Whereas the other example, they were asking about that material, then that's why I consulted with the chair whether or not that would be acceptable.
Yeah, so just to clear up any confusion, if you wanted to replace with the same material, you wouldn't need our approval. But to replace with any new material, whether it's a metal material or hardy board, you would need approval to make that change. And so it's no, you need approval in either case. Did your contractor want to speak to the material before we move any further?
Yeah, Vince, you can, if you have anything to add.
You're muted. No, I don't think you're muted. You're just.
There. It's not muted.
You're not muted, but we can't hear you.
Can't see him either.
I can see him.
Oh.
We can't hear you.
Still can't hear
Yeah,
you.
we still can't hear you.
You can call me if you want, Vince, and I can put you on speakerphone.
All this technology.
It's very exciting.
Hey, if you can't hear me, then I'm going to call you.
It's one way to think of it.
Scott, can you go to page 140?
Mark,
Okay.
Julie, to what you said, I don't think it's the steel that's the problem. I think we're both in agreement that it's the steel, it's the wood grain. And
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, but you know, the thing about the trim pieces with aluminum, like you've got to, I don't know what the trim pieces then are with that. They're just going to be wood? What?
Can you hear me or no?
Yep.
Yes.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Sorry about that. I don't know why my mic is not working. Okay, so the reason why I suggested this premium product, True Cedar, is because if you look at the pictures, what's existing right now is a 4x4 straight aluminum, and it's been painted multiple times, and it's been damaged by, from the hailstorm. So what we were told is we had to go back with, like, kind, and quality with that kind of aluminum, right? So when I called my distributors, which were about 4 distributors, and I said, hey, look, I need a 4x4 smooth aluminum with, that color blend or whatever color they chose, it was very hard to locate that exact product because this product is completely outdated. A 4x4 straight aluminum is outdated. There's smooth 8-inch aluminum where you can get it, it's very popular, but a 4x4 is very hard. So that's why when I suggested the steel siding is because that's what we've been going back with as a premium product when homeowners, even in historic, like in Elgin, it's gotten approved in Elgin and multiple different places, is because that's the closest thing to the 4x4. Yes, it does have an embossment of the wood grains. But if I knew that hardy board was an option, we would go with hardy board, or anything that you guys would suggest that we can with like kind and quality. It's just the steel siding, the True Cedar, is the #1 product on the market right now, which, you know, shows that distinguished, you know, look. Now, as for the question about the trim, so if you look down all these pictures that I put in here, I know I put like 90 something pictures of the whole thing. It has a special trim to it. And with this trim that's on it, you don't need J channels. So you don't need J channels. If you look at the seams, it's connected by caulk. So that's what's awesome about the steel siding as well. And hardy board too. You wouldn't have to mess with the corners or anything. So with the steel, all we would what we would replace would be straight aluminum. So metal for metal is what we would be replacing with, right? We wouldn't have to touch anything else because of this, you know, trim that they do have on the home. And if you look to the close-up siding pieces on here, you can see there's already, from the paint, there's already an embossment that looks exactly the same as the steel siding. So it's kind of mimicking the same thing, but I'm up for anything that could get approved with, you know, hardy board, if that's an option. And if it doesn't have to be a 4x4, and it can be, you know, a 6-inch hardy board or 8-inch or whatever, you know, you guys think is the best option to go back, I'm more than happy to give the homeowners any new samples, and then we can go from there. It's just, I thought it had to be a 4x4 and as close as mimic to aluminum as possible.
So if you forget the aluminum, since you have to come back to us because you're not replacing in kind, which would be smooth aluminum, since you can't get that, you're saying it's a 4-inch reveal, right, of the siding? That's the 4x4 that you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so then, and the hardy board is, I don't actually remember, the hardy board, is the smallest one 6, or does it come in 4?
6.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Julie.
No, I'm just thinking about that. I didn't know that.
I didn't understand what Vince just said about the trim, because I just scrolled through all the pictures, and, you know, are you telling me that this is just this piece of bent steel that's going to butt into what? What's happening?
Like wood?
I just don't understand what's happening at any of those. There's no details here. I mean, I went through there, and with a couple of shots, we're not really seeing how this thing is going to be detailed at corners or at windows. Well, I mean, you're saying is you're just butting into the window and you're caulking. I hope like hell it doesn't leak, but that's a separate issue. But then at the corners, I don't understand what you're doing. The aluminum had, yeah, J's and all the rest where they fit in front of it or around it. What's happening here? Because there are no details of the steel system, the inside corners or the outside corners. I mean, I'm looking at the aluminum right now, I think. You're showing us picture 139, that's the house, right?
Correct. Yep. So if you're looking at the, if you can find the picture with my finger pointing to it, the windows are made of wood, straight wood, and there's a built-in J channel to the window. So we wouldn't even have to add a J channel to it. It's fastened by the nailing strip on the siding. So, and then it's caulked. So even the outside corners and the inside corners, if you look, I put those pictures in there, it's the same thing.
Go to 135. Can you go to 135? Yeah. All right, let's look at that one.
What?
Now, what are you doing there?
We're removing the aluminum siding, and that trim piece is straight wood. We can't, I can't remove
That's a piece of wood?
The siding is going to fit right into that. We're gonna put the siding, just how the aluminum looks right now is going to look exactly as the steel siding. So that's why we don't need the accessories, other accessories, because of the trim on this house. So whoever built this home, they put this extensive trim on it, and it's all over. It's all built in, and it's all caulked. So per manufacturer specs, as long as the trim is attached due to J-channel and it's all built in, you don't have to add any metal accessories over any wood. So if you look at I don't know if I can share my screen or not, but if you look at the close-up of the window, and you see like the caulking's like cracked on the aluminum, keep going. Right there. Yeah. So if you look close on the right-hand side, it's just caulked. And then, so it's caulked to that J-channel. So that J-channel, and then there's the window. So that J-channel is already fastened to the wood behind that siding. So it's fastened already there, and that's not going anywhere. I can't remove that because it's attached to the window.
But that's an aluminum piece, right? I mean, that's part of the aluminum siding system.
No.
Leave that aluminum there and go over it with the steel?
I don't get it either, Ken.
Yeah.
There's always like little trim pieces as part of these siding systems. This house is older. It had wood siding when it was first built, and it was replaced with aluminum at some point. And there's clearly something there between the wood and the aluminum siding, because the wood window frame is visible and has all the kind of crackled looking paint, but then you get to the edge and it's something different.
Correct, but the window, the J-channel is built into the window. Look closely.
But the J-channel came with the aluminum. It didn't come with the original wood. I think one of the issues is that we don't know what's going to happen when you pull this off. You know, and one of the great surprises when you pull it off, sadly for, is it Landon's and whoever else up there, I'm seeing a name, is that, you know, we don't know the condition of the wood. We don't know what the trim is like and all the rest. You're relying on trim and materials, you know, God knows, I mean, I don't want to scare them, what's behind there. When I've seen people pull off old siding, you know, you're going to discover the wood siding is probably still there. I'm not going to say that you want to salvage it, because that's a fairly expensive option. And I recognize that, you know, yes, the top of the food chain would have been put in lovely cedar siding with the 4-inch lap or something, and then work your way all the way down to probably vinyl at the bottom. But, you know, somewhere in between, there's going to be some issues here. And I just don't understand how this is going to be trimmed out. And I think, Ken, that seems to be your question too.
Well, and I'd be very concerned if the plan was to leave parts of the aluminum in place and then have new steel directly butting against it. That's a recipe for disaster.
So what aluminum are you talking about? Because the J-channel is wood. That's what I'm trying to explain.
Go forward to like picture 137. So there's a close-up of a window trim. I mean, there's
let me see.
Clearly a strip of metal vertically between the aluminum and the wood. Like, look what happens when it gets to the bottom of this photo where there's the sill. You see the little 1/8-inch thick bead of some metal edge sticking out differently than the wood. I mean, I don't know what that is exactly. I haven't been up close to this house, but that's an aluminum trim piece that came with the aluminum.
Like flashing.
Yeah, it's part of the aluminum siding system. When it was put on 50 years ago, they added a strip of aluminum there.
From what I saw at the house, and for most of all the windows, the J-channels are built into the trim. So this is different than what I'm used to on not this old of a home.
Okay, so here's a question. Let's just go back to the material for a second. All right, so and in terms of this process, you're going to have to take off all the aluminum. Then you're going to go underneath it and you're going to see like if there's wood siding and are you gonna take that, you're gonna go to the wood sheathing to see what kind of shape it is to make sure there's no rot? I have no idea what's under this. And then you're gonna go back and put your new material on. So the question is, like, can you leave all this metal stuff with the wood trim? I mean, you're gonna find that out when you actually do the work, whether this works for you or not. I guess my question is, if we're evaluating the finished material, because, you know, that's if the finished material, and we say, well, okay, if the aluminum, if you're not replacing it in kind, and then you have to come to us, and you are thinking about hardy board, let's just say this, and it doesn't come in 4 inches, it only comes in 6 inches, then is that something different dimension? Is that I'm asking this commission, is that something that's acceptable? And I don't know, we know for sure that hardy board doesn't come in 4 inches?
I have another question for you, Julie. How do we know that the original wood siding is 4-inch?
Yeah, who knows? I don't know. But I guess, like, for me, look, you can keep going unraveling. For me, I would say that I would rather not have an aluminum embossed material. But, and then the thing is, so is that something that the commissioners can talk about? I mean, the question of, yes, you're gonna have to evaluate when you take this off what's underneath it, and then, you know, as just a builder, to understand how to waterproof this thing and vent it and everything else. But in terms of the end result, if we want to see a different material and it's not going to be wood side, you know, no one's mentioned going back to wood, which isn't as durable as hardy board. So would we, so I just want to make sure you cannot get a 4-inch hardy board. That's a question. I guess, is Vince there?
I'm here.
I think there's a 4.
Do you know that? Is there a 4-inch?
Yeah, I just Googled it, and there is a 4-inch
Okay.
on their website.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. I was trying to find it. So like, if we were just saying material, okay, and then the question of the trim pieces, because then you know, there are hardy board trim pieces. I don't even know if you can keep the wood material or not around the windows when you rip everything off, but would we agree that hardy board is a better material to use than the embossed metal siding? I'm asking that of the commissioners.
I was, my opinion was shaped by slide number 141. I mean, you can use, knowing that it's 4-inch exposure, if you go to that slide, the embossed texture is really, really bold. It is.
Yeah, I'm against it. As a commissioner, I just can't, yeah.
I agree. I think when you look at the standard number 6, you know, the new material should match the material being replaced in composition, design, color, texture, and other visual qualities. So it really is emphasizing that, and I think introducing this new texture is not necessary. If there's a smooth option that matches the existing material better, I think that's the better route, the acceptable route according to the standards.
Okay, well, we seem to have consensus that the hardy board would be better. Would you be willing to go back and look at a proposal for hardy board? I don't know if there are any cost ramifications or what, you know, other steps you'd have to take.
I wanted to say that I didn't have as much a problem with, this is steel. Julie, you keep saying aluminum, and you realize this blue stuff is steel. But I think it's the stamped pattern. I have no idea if anybody can see what I'm holding up, but that's hardy board. I just went looking.
I saw it. I saw those shades. It's not as pronounced as that. You can get a smooth hardy board.
You can get a smooth hardy board, or you can get it with a grain, but it's nowhere near the kind of grain we're looking at here.
Right.
So we are, for the record, we are totally open to hardy board.
Okay.
We're looking to do this as soon as possible.
Okay. All right.
Can I ask a question, just a broader question? Just again, looking at the standards when we're replacing such a large amount of not original material, but the existing material. Were there efforts to repair the siding? Can you all speak to that before, like what led up to the replacement decision?
I could speak on that. So they have aluminum siding and it's like a pop can. So the hail that we had in Evanston, once it dents it and it actually punctured some holes in it, the functionality of it, so it won't work anymore. It needs to be replaced, and the insurance company actually paid for a full replacement of the siding because it was deemed not repairable.
Okay, good.
Wow.
Thanks for that. That's helpful information.
Would the commissioners entertain approving it with Hardy Board currently without it coming back?
I would.
If it's
Smooth?
4-inch.
smooth, 4-inch, and mimicking the exact dimensions.
But is
Okay.
that something, they're not, I mean, I'm in deference to the owners. You know, we might be saddling them regardless of what the insurance will pay. The insurance might say, but that's 20% more. Congratulations, folks. That comes out of your pocket. So the question is, isn't it something that they need to evaluate before we say we're approving something that they don't even know what it's costing them?
Although interestingly, if the Preservation Commission will only allow that material, that may strengthen their hand with the insurance company.
True.
Well, it's, I'm asking the owners in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hold on.
Vince can
Hold on. Here you go.
speak to that.
Go ahead, Vince.
Yeah, so the insurance company paid for double 4 premium product aluminum. Now, the price that they paid for aluminum comes with, in that category of hardy board, fiber cement as well, LP siding, and this true cedar is all in the same price point. So it's apples to apples in the premium products. So
Great. Okay.
you guys
Great.
did to approve smooth double 4 hardy board that looks exactly the same, then there would be no upcharge given to the homeowners.
Great. Okay. All right. So
Okay.
it sounds like it would be okay if we approve the Hardy Board. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the amended application?
It's Ken's turn.
Yeah, okay.
All right, I'll do my best. I move we issue a certificate of appropriateness for 1133 Forest Avenue for the replacement of the existing hail damaged aluminum siding. The new siding to be hardy board smooth siding with a 4-inch exposure. Exposure if the original wood siding is found to have a larger dimension. And the standards for alteration 1 through 7, 9, and 10 apply.
Second?
Second.
Elliot, second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Any abstention? So I think it was unanimously in favor. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for waiting through all the rest.
Yeah.
It was thrilling.
Yes. It was great.
Good at the long ones.
Thank you for your time, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Carlos?
We still have.
Sorry, I'm here. I was muted for a little while. So I passed the minutes and I haven't received any comments.
I wrote you one, Carlos.
Oh, I don't think I got it. Was it after 5 today or something?
5 o'clock.
Oh, okay. At that point, I was not at my desk, so sorry.
Oh, well.
But was there any major?
No, it was a minor thing on page 6.
And if anybody else would like to make a comment or edit, can you let us know? And so we can ask someone to make a motion to approve.
How do we do that? Do we just say, move to approve the minutes of the May 12, 2020 Evanston Preservation Commission virtual meeting? Oh my God. With any minor edits that any of the commissioners might provide to Carlos within the next 24 hours. That'll give you time to
Julie
read.
seconds. All right, all in favor? Aye. I think nobody opposed. Okay, all were in favor.
Thank you.
Preservation and sustainability update.
Okay, Julie.
No, did everyone read? Carlos sent it. We need the comments from everybody. We're just kind of waiting to figure out what the next step is. So did all commissioners read it?
Look good.
So what's our next step then with it?
If there are no comments and
if there's no
approves,
comments,
can we move it on?
Yeah, that we really want to, because you're seeing all of these things where all of these projects we're getting. So trying to move this through. So what's next steps, Carlos?
I believe it would be necessary to send the document that the commission will endorse tonight to the environmental board and to the utilities commission.
The other committees?
Because I wanted this to go first to you guys, so then when they get it, it will be
right
as close as possible to what the commission would like to adopt.
Can we approve this, you guys?
Yes, but once we approve it, then it'll go to the other commissions that you did this in conjunction with, and then once they approve it, what will happen to it?
So the idea was that at some point we will be sharing this with the council to show the work of the subcommittee, the participation of the three bodies, and that the commission has done their homework to address the council's concern about the sustainability and the solar panels that have been coming to the commission for the last, I would say, 10 years or so, and more emphasis now. And that will be, adopted, I believe, into the it could be under the rules and procedures. I don't think necessarily we need to put them in the ordinance unless you feel that it should be part of the ordinance. The only issue with that is the technology keeps changing. And for instance, one thing I noticed, we talk about only solar panels, but we are not talking about the Tesla tiles that we will have a project coming in with the tiles where they will remove all the roof system and just use the tiles entirely. And if I understand correctly, not all the tiles are the solar tiles, it's just that they will have a uniform look. So that's different than a solar panel.
Well, we could change that language so it's more general. What do we I'm sorry. Can we look at the first page for a sec? Okay, I just want to, incorporating sustainable materials and systems help us meet our CARP goals. So Aleka, maybe we should just check this, maybe not right now, and just make sure that it's general and then it gets specific, because we say installation of solar systems, and that's pretty general. So
yeah, I was thinking solar systems was general enough.
It is general. It is general enough. So the Evanston Preservation Commission reviews solar installations, but solar shingles or whatever, those are still installations. So is there anything in here that's not general enough?
I mean, installation of solar systems, wouldn't the Tesla shingles be a
which
solar
should be.
system?
Yes.
Does that mean wind and any of those are not part of this at all?
Wind isn't.
Wind isn't, and then the other, originally we had
We had green roofs in
green
there.
roofs, because I thought green roofs might be coming in, but somebody
So
took that out.
Those aren't part of this. Yeah, I read the 419 version. I don't know why I missed the fact that there was a 517 version.
Yeah, well, I think, Aleka, so solar systems are anything that deals with solar.
Yeah, I mean, Carlos,
Panels, shingles.
Carlos, do you disagree with that? Why?
No. No, I guess, if you have solar systems such as, or not to exclude, something like that, so that's more open to new technology that might come along.
Solar systems is
not limited to solar panels, tiles, anything. So it's not limited to. You can add or
not limited
solar
to, because
systems.
my concern was as soon as we start listing anything specific,
it's too specific.
That limits us, you know?
Okay, so solar systems, it seems to cover anything that would come along that is dependent on solar energy.
Yeah.
Which will exclude windmills, but I think green roofs are dependent on solar energy.
Nobody will
No.
buy that one.
Green roofs are different, but for some reason, I think it was somebody on one of the other committees, they were talking about, well, we're here to discuss solar systems. And, from a preservation perspective, in terms of kind of covering more ground, I thought a lot of the same review and concerns
Well, why
came
don't
up
we
with
stick
green
it?
roofs.
I agree.
Stick it back in?
Yeah. I think we should,
Not to disagree with your comments, I just want to highlight that a green roof is dependent on the sun. So just remind of that. I'm not necessarily saying we had to exclude, but somehow we had to find the wording that might exclude green roofs because they depend on the sun.
No, I mean, green roofs, I'm fine with green roofs being included.
Okay.
I think the comment by the other subcommittee member was, are we trying to include too much? Why don't we just talk about solar systems?
Yeah, but it takes so long to do this. I think we shouldn't go put it back in there.
Yeah.
Seriously, because really, what are we going to do? Have a whole nother language that we have to stick in for if somebody comes. We haven't seen any green roofs,
Yeah. I mean, I could see how wind systems would need their own thing because that would be a totally different thing.
It's a different animal, really.
Yeah.
Windmills.
Well,
there's also wind turbines, and then there's the turbines are a little bit smaller units. That are different technology as well.
Okay, here's a suggestion, Aleka. Let's just look back at this. Make sure that we're a little more inclusive in some stuff because I'm just reading it now. Let's put the green roof back in there, and then we'll just send it back. And I want to make sure that every commissioner is reading this document with the right date on it. And then, so let's do that, Aleka, okay? I just want to review it.
Julie and Aleka, I mean, on the one hand, in the beginning and in a lot of places, it just says solar. Other times you're saying solar system. And the reason I say that is because here I am looking at, I don't know what's on our screen right now, page 192. And now it suddenly starts using the word solar panels.
No, Elliot, I agree with you. That's why we have to just go back. We have to tweak this thing, then we're going to send it back to Carlos, because I agree with you. I'm just looking at it again. So we'll just go back. We'll tweak it. We'll send it back to Carlos. And then, Carlos, everyone, please read it on the commission. And then, Carlos, so let's say we can have that, Aleka, maybe it's not that much. We can have it back by tomorrow or Thursday or something?
Yeah, we can do that real quickly.
Try that.
And then should we, I mean, but I would like to push this forward because obviously every month we're getting
Right.
things. So I want the community to be able to see what we're expecting. So if we make those little tweaks, are there any other, did anybody look at it? Are there any other concerns on a specifically or on a broader scale?
I think that, listening what you're saying, I will send this to Kumar and ask him to distribute to the members of the members of the group,
yes,
so that they have a last chance to look at it too. So after that, then we can, I believe, move forward more comfortably. At least we have to reach out one more time to them.
Yeah.
Okay, so
wait 2 days and we'll go through and make sure everything's consistent and make the little tweaks we were talking about.
right. But I'd like, Carlos, I'd like when you send it to the two other groups that were represented, you should be able to say that the Preservation Commission has reviewed this and approved it so they understand. And then if they make more tweaks, it'll come back to us. But it should come from the commission now because they all knew that we were all going to review it.
Yeah. So why don't we approve it tonight, subject to those final editing changes?
That's great.
They're not going to change the substance of it.
No.
But this is good, I think. It's just a few little.
Okay, if that's great.
Which is key.
Yeah, I found it helpful over the past couple projects, so.
That's great.
Great.
Okay. So our motion is just going to be to approve this. I mean, I think that's the whole.
Yes.
Okay.
And you can say with the, whatever you want to say with the tweaks that we're going to make.
Now, Carlos, do we need to, so it's not going to become part of our rules yet? Is that a future step we'd have to take?
Commission I think that, I mean, there are other commissions that have guidelines for many things. There are separate documents. So we can either adopt part of the rules and procedures, or we can just have guidelines they're not incorporated into the ordinance. But if you adopt these guidelines, that's what we're going to share with the applicant, the guidelines with, let's say, with a solar system application, which will be part of the certificate of appropriateness.
Okay, so why don't we get it approved tonight? And then if there's any other approval we need to do at some point, we can.
Yes, you can always, that's the flexibility when you don't adopt something into an ordinance, that you can always keep amending without having to, apply for amendment to an ordinance, which is more time consuming, and also it's a more legalistic document.
Okay.
But can I just ask, because I am confused now. So we can't, if this is not an ordinance, but we prove it, we can't use it or distribute it until the other two committees agree. And then if they agree, can we start using it, or does it have to go before the full council?
No, once you adopt it as the final use as the guidelines adopted by the commission.
Oh.
Right, and Commissioners, it's Scott Mangum here. Your rules and procedures for the Preservation Commission state that they should be amendments to those rules should be presented in writing the meeting preceding the meeting for the vote on them. So essentially those could be provided in writing, and then you can come back with a formal revision of the rules and incorporate these guidelines into the rules and procedures of the commission, following any other revisions or edits from the other boards or commissions.
So then it sounds like maybe we should approve this tonight to be sent to the other commissions and then to City Council in some form. And then subsequently, when it's final, we could adopt it as part of our rules. Does that make sense?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
So we have to, okay, but so we have to wait till it goes before the full council before we can use it.
No,
I don't believe we need to go to the council.
Wait, I'm sorry.
I don't believe you need to go to the council if you are adopting this part of the rules, because the ordinance says that the commission will adopt its own rules.
Right.
Scott, is that right?
Correct. Yeah, the commission can adopt its rules.
Okay, well, we should probably wait to adopt the rules until we get the feedback from the other committees, since that's where these were come from. But when they agree to it, which we should give them a time for, I'm just moving forward with this, we should give them a time frame in which we need them to approve them or give us comments back. So Carlos, when you send it to them, I mean, I don't want to give them a month, you know, I want them to do it as quickly as possible. So we should give them a time frame. And then when it comes back to us, if there's, we'll have to, if Aleka and I get them back, we're just trying to expedite this. So whatever, Carlos, you can do to help us, great.
Well, I'll contact Kumar, and he has the staffs those other committees. So he and I will discuss when would be the fastest way.
Okay.
And then does the council, since the council asked us to create this subcommittee,
right.
At what point?
No, the council, no, I'm sorry, the council did not ask anything.
Oh.
I thought
they
did.
Initiative to, they just approve an appeal, and if you hear or listen to that discussion, is basically saying, you know, the commission shouldn't be disapproving this, but that's the goal, that we want to minimize the number of appeals for solar energy systems.
So who decided we were having this subcommittee with the other, this organization?
I can't recall exactly, but I think the idea was that if we're going to do anything, it will be good to include the other committees or boards that are dealing with the goal of the city council to eliminate, you know, the carbon that was adopted by the council. So we're not acting alone. So we want to incorporate everybody that is interested in reaching
So is that
goal.
Kumar and Carlos? Did you guys do that together? Say, oh, this is our next step.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
You know,
Okay,
maybe we should put, I mean, one of the problems here is going to be that we're going to pass this with the other commissions, and the city council, you know, hopefully they'll see it, but they're not going to like vote to approve it. And then if we come back to them on an appeal and say they didn't follow our guidelines, we're probably going to hear like, what guidelines? I wonder if maybe just the title of it, like joint guidelines adopted by, and then list the 3 commissions. Do you think we could do that?
We can do that. We could, oops.
Probably should. You're right, Mark. What I don't understand now is you guys are going to make the tweaks we talked about and then run it by the other people. And we're saying that's all fine. What if they say we want to make some other tweaks or we don't like the ones you've done? Do we own them now, or how does that work?
They don't review solar panels the way we do.
Yeah, I mean, it's more or less done, Elliot. Let's not worry about problems that happen.
Yeah, let's not worry about it. If they come back, here's what will happen. If they come back with comments, then Aleka and I have to look at them. Then we're going to have to figure out what we need to do, if we need to do something, and we might have to go back to talk to somebody, but it'll come back to us because we were working as a group. We'll figure that out.
Okay, so let's get it approved now to keep it moving forward.
Okay.
Julie or Aleka, since you guys did all the hard work, would one of you like to make a motion to approve this and move it on?
Julie?
All right, except I have to make sure I have the right draft. I have to make, is this the draft? Because now it's 5/17, that's the draft. But should I, okay, I make a motion that we approve, also, what's the title? I'm sorry, I need the title.
The joint report.
It's something in our minutes, isn't it?
I make a motion that we approve the, it's not, we called it Sustainable Historical Preservation Guidelines.
Or is it the guidelines?
I'm just trying to figure out what we're calling it.
Are you going to add the joint part on this one?
Yeah, should we add it now?
Okay, what did we say? Joint what?
Joint guidelines adopted by the Preservation and Sustainability Collaboration.
Joint guidelines adopted, joint,
Oh, God.
that's crazy.
Put the names of the other two commissions that you're doing it with.
I don't have all that in front of me. Aleka, do you?
So you know what? You can generalize it, and then you'll get a specific title as part of the editing.
Okay, joint guidelines for sustainable historic preservation. I make a motion that we accept the joint guidelines for sustainable historic preservation. What else? I made the motion.
Okay. All right, Aleka, do you want to second it?
I second it.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
You know what? I should give them the date. No, because we're going to tweak it. Let's just leave it that way.
Okay. It's late.
I don't know.
The other commission has also completed its work. I mean, this is really more, this is the preservation commissions. I mean, Aleka and I and Sally were helping out Alderman Ruth Simmons and Dina Robinson of, local Black historian, establish some kind of Black African-American historic structure. And it was really their effort, not ours. We talked about whether they wanted either a historic district or some kind of cultural district that was more like historic district light with fewer restrictions. And that really wasn't what they wanted. They didn't feel that structures were necessarily threatened or that the architectural integrity of structures should be locked in or preserved. And they didn't really want any procedures passed. So what we ended up doing after a lot of discussions was a resolution establishing what we called African American heritage sites in Evanston, which would be initially a number of sites, both current buildings that still exist and sites of buildings that are no longer there. And so it's not historic preservation under the ordinance. And I would say, I think Aleka and I were careful to be of a lot of help to Dina Robinson and to Alderman Ruth Simmons without it being like our project. And so our role here was just to provide assistance and then to recommend approval of the, tell the city council we've reviewed it and we recommend approval. And, we're doing this both to help out and to move forward something that is historic preservation of a different type. In addition, it fulfills one of the goals we've had of trying to show the city council that we're constructive and help out. It gives us an opportunity to get some positive publicity for helping other people in their effort using our expertise. And, we help with the drafting, we help with the thought process. And the idea is after this that the resolution appoints Dino's organization, Shorefront, which is a very good African-American historic organization in Evanston that has a tremendous amount of archives and resources. And they would be the party administering this going forward. And, again, Aleka and I told them in any way we could keep helping out in the future, we'd be delighted to do so. But we wanted to be more of a community effort that the community and the not-for-profit organization would take over. And, we're not going to play any official role going forward. So were there any questions or discussion about this?
I think it was nice because it plays into the, our role in assisting with the preservation of historic integrity of the culture of,
right.
And sites as they remind us and are important to pointing out the history of Evanston.
And it actually ties very closely to the article Beth had circulated.
Yeah, I saw that. That was great. And, that is really important to think about, because when we were looking at the family focus building, and then, we basically landmarked it, but we did specify it wasn't architectural, really based on architectural characteristics, but on cultural. And I think that it was important to read that article to just remind ourselves about sometimes buildings have more prominence than people, which maybe they shouldn't.
Yeah, there's just
I think the point of the article was that people are more important than buildings.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, that's what I said. So I thought that was important.
Yeah, that is a nice reminder just of the many, many perspectives and where significance comes from. And, Evanston, like many, many other cities, is kind of heavy on a certain perspective. And we have an opportunity to broaden that. And this is a great first step, lending a hand in this manner that where both sides of the stakeholders are pleased and are happy with what, with the direction that we're going with this. I think that's a win-win.
Thank you, Aleka and Mark.
Yes, if I may, what I like about this resolution is that is the community that is directly affected by the resolution benefiting from their own actions. And my takeaway is that I learned a lot by listening to Dino and Alderman Simmons, what they had to share with us as far as the history of the African American community in Evanston. To be honest, I knew little and still know little about it. But this came so timely for all these things we're going through right now. It's like it almost seems like we just thought about it because what happened within the last 2 weeks. No, we started this 2 months ago, and I'm very pleased with the resolution, the way it evolved. I just have one little semantic. I think Dino said committee and we are commission. So I'm gonna just ask.
I think I pointed that out to him. He said he was going to change it, but maybe remind him
okay,
again.
good. Okay, but other than that.
Oh, if he said committee, maybe. Because he said council first and then.
Oh, council, I'm sorry, yeah, Preservation Council, yeah. So those are the little things that, can be easily amended.
I think the other thing.
And also,
I was just going to say the other thing that's nice about this that we were very careful, everybody involved, is to make sure that it's preserving and highlighting important Evanston history without putting any regulations or hoops that anybody has to really jump through. We wanted to make sure that people didn't think they had to come before the Preservation Commission or that any restrictions were going to be put on any properties that were involved in this. It's really about the heritage of the sites and highlighting the history of this new heritage site. It's not a district, it's heritage sites.
So Carlos, we had talked about after we approve somehow trying to get something attached to our approval that indicates our, kind of role not in taking ownership, our role in assisting and recommending without it seeming like it, with acknowledging that it doesn't belong to us. I mean, I don't know how we can best communicate that, but it would be a shame to get kind of our role lost.
Yes,
we should do that.
Typically, when you prepare a resolution, there is a introductory page about the proposed, and then that's when we can provide the information that is relevant as far as the involvement of the commission and how the ordinance came about, and the resolution. And then we will have the resolution and the document that is attached to it. So there will be a history of the process.
All right, so it sounds like what we'll do is do a little paragraph or a couple paragraphs about approving it, but also just saying what our role was and how it came about, kind of thing, and why we recommend it.
Okay.
All right, so I could work on that with you guys and with Aleka. So I guess we just need to approve this, whatever that means.
We have to do that separate, or would that just be a line or two that's included in Alderman Simmons' memo that is on the cover of this?
I would think she would be happy to include our paragraph or two, something on a separate page with hers, which I think would have the, actually, she might have already done it. You think she already did it?
Alderman Simmons was supposed to send me her write-up on it, but I have not received anything yet to give the context of all the whereas that appear on the resolution. But I think that Mark and I can work on the role of the commission as an introduction to the resolution, and with Alderman Simmons' background on the I guess the proposal to adopt the resolution to the council. So
okay, so should we
I think the challenge for us right now is timing, because she wanted to have this for the June 22nd meeting, and literally I think by this Friday is our deadline to submit to the city manager's office so that they can put it on that agenda. And Scott had already requested to place it on the agenda, and I requested the resolution number to the law department. What they're waiting from us is the adoption or the resolution in a draft form, so they can also look at it and see if there is anything that they need to change from the legalistic point of view. So that we need to hopefully be able to do all that within the time limitations we have.
Okay, so maybe our resolution is to recommend passage of this to the city council. Maybe that's our resolution.
Yes, that would be, in my opinion, the proper role of the commission, recommend the passing of this resolution.
Okay. Aleka, do you want to make the motion? Pretty easy.
Oh, God, I hate motions.
It's not hard.
I move that we recommend the passage of this resolution. What is the name of the resolution? Insert name of the resolution to the city council for approval.
Second.
Second.
Duly seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And actually, the title of it is African American Heritage Sites. I think there's a typo in the title.
Yeah. Scott, did we touch the correct points? I just want to make sure that we're acting properly, since you are with the pulse of the council more than anybody else.
Sure. So the city council is the body that will be taking action on the resolution. So this certainly has been presented to the Preservation Commission. There weren't any revisions to it, and the cover memo, as stated, we can put in some information in the cover memo that the process that this went through to develop the resolution.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Okay. So we have, if I may, Mark, can I move to the next item?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So Scott circulated a survey, and there was not many responses. So this is a second attempt to do something with the retreat. So the idea is to cut it into portions rather than one day doing it all. And the first step was to adopt the guidelines for solar. And then now the second step, I think, is the order changed from the original list in March. So we can have a topic every meeting at the end, or maybe set another time to have a retreat for each of the topics we listed on the agenda, draft 2. We think that one of the challenges would be, how to show materials, but I think that we understand under the limitations that we can always collect good photos of windows or the brochures or something and share that. And I think the other topics would be easy as a, during a Zoom meeting. So I would like to offer the commissioners an opportunity to give us your feedback and how you want to proceed and when you want to, start or continue the retreat, since we adopted the solar energy guidelines tonight. That was the idea, to give a different approach of the retreat.
So I would say that Windows, unless someone is going to do some PowerPoint, which I'm not going to do, so if Elliot wants to do it, it's kind of a bigger deal because of seeing materials and putting pictures together, and brochures don't, I had this idea that we'd actually bring Windows in, but I don't have time to do like some big PowerPoint on that. So unless Elliot does, I would say, can we hold off on that one? And can we do something where we talk about, I think, each of the other ones we could actually talk about. I don't know. Everyone is so tired at the end of these meetings to, run them and do even a piece of it. It seems to me like we could, if we could find, a day that works, we don't have to do 3 hours, but we could do, 1 hour, and we could talk about maybe if you want to pick the community, can we approve by property? So maybe the community relations at number 3 and 4 go together. It's just, I think Windows, if we could kind of hold out till maybe after COVID or something, unless someone really wants to do a lot of work on the window piece. It's hard to show a window on these little screens.
I think Windows, I agree, would be
materials
more helpful to me to see some of the in-person examples.
So how about if would everybody just be up for if we can find another time for a Zoom call, and we could just say it's an hour, and we could take community relations and we could just take 3 and 4 and do them?
Yeah, I'm even fine with more than an hour. If it's an evening like this.
An hour?
Weekend. Or were you thinking a weekend or a weeknight? Because for
weeknight, better, right? Weeknight.
I have more than an hour on a weeknight.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah. So is that okay? Can we have Scott or whoever was doing it just do a doodle poll, and then we just pick a day, and let's say we do 3 and 4 together? Unless you want to do 5 first.
My suggestion is to pick a day for the first one today, because
that's fine.
The poll didn't work.
Okay, all right, I don't even remember the poll, so a lot has happened. So, all right, well, can we pick another day? Can we pick a day for an hour, an evening, hour meeting?
So, depending on who's doing the presentation, do they need more time?
I think I don't know. Do we need to have a whole presentation, or can we just have a discussion? I'm reading these. Can we improve acceptance by property owners and community by improving our process?
Yeah, our original goal with those topics was simply to have somebody be like a moderator with a list of discussion issues. So it's not nearly as much preparation as the windows.
Okay, let's just pick a day, and then we'll figure out, let's pick a day that we can meet that'll work, and then we'll figure out which one we're going to do. And I'm fine to put something together for one of them. So how about if we just pick a day first?
I'm going to try Tuesday the 30th.
So I have to just say, like, I have these classes on Tuesday, so I can't do Tuesdays. That's the only day I can't do. So if a Wednesday works for everybody.
What for people with kids, what's a good time?
Oh, forget those kids.
Starting at 7:30 is a little easier if we go push it slightly later.
7:30? Okay. So what about, so we just don't lose like all this. Well, do you want to try to do it on like the 24th?
Sure.
Okay, let's just do the 24th. 24th.
That work for people? That works for me.
It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay,
Yeah.
7:30.
And then of the topics, I mean, do you want to try to do 3, 4, and 5 that were in the, I don't know, that were in the original agenda?
Wait, let me just write 7:30. Hold on. So,
I mean, that's like a half hour a topic or something if you did 90 minutes.
Are we capable of that?
My suggestion would be,
let's do an
commissioners,
hour. Let's just do an hour.
and do
I
as
don't
much
think
as you
we'll
can in an
actually
hour.
finish in an hour.
Me
We
too.
won't
Let's
do
do an
anything.
hour. And
Okay, so
let's-
what topics you want to do in an hour that were?
I think we should do number 3. Can we improve acceptance by property owners and community by improving our process, better guidelines, process for community input, clear
It's pretty
road
close to. You want to do 3 and 4?
Yeah, let's just do 3 and
Closely
4.
related.
Okay, let's do 3 and 4. I'm fine to put some more bullet points together, but there's a lot there just for dialogue. I know we're going to all talk about those things. So I'm fine to be a moderator.
Okay,
So
great.
let's do 3 and 4, okay?
And we're doing, seriously, we're going to say an hour because
An hour?
I think we should be realistic and say an hour and a half because there is no way that we're going to
Okay,
get out in an
fine.
hour.
I
I just want to. I mean, I would love
doesn't
it,
matter.
but
I don't know who sets the Zoom up then.
No, my suggestion was to have a session of an hour and cover as much as you can. If you don't cover everything,
Yeah, that's
then set
fine.
another date.
So let's say I'm going to do 3 or 4. I'll just figure it out. Okay, it'll cover a lot of that. It's going to be an hour. And who sets it up then? Does the city or do I?
No, Scott has been the one. Scott, can you do the Zoom for the meeting?
Sure, I can.
Okay,
Thanks, Scott.
so fine. And great. Okay, great.
Scott,
Perfect.
does this still have to become an official meeting where you have to do it because it's more than 3 commissioners?
I believe we have to make it a public meeting because it's more than 3 commissioners.
Okay, well, that'll be interesting. We'll see who shows up.
Speaking of 3 commissioners, we down. Robert resigned. I don't know if people knew that.
Oh, I didn't know. No, I didn't know that. When did he resign?
He resigned in a letter that he sent me and then sent to Scott and Carlos, right?
Okay.
Correct.
So we have a terrible shortage of commissioners, and it's a shortage today. It'll get worse.
I totally made some recommendations.
Wait, how many commissioners do we need?
Well,
by the end of the year, we're gonna need
4, 5.
4.
5, I think.
5.
No, because 3 commissioners are, 5 if you count. 3 commissioners are
We're at 9.
ending their second term in November.
Oh yeah, Ellie and I are like, bye-bye.
And Tim.
I think Tim goes off too.
Yeah.
Well, I think I recommended somebody
You'll be down to
who I
6.
think would be very good. What?
You'll be down to 6 after we leave.
And I'm sure you'll be so happy.
Does Carlos have your recommendation, Julie?
Carlos, I can give it
I
to you
don't
again.
remember.
And he sent a
last time we had
resume in.
discussion,
Well, they have
I
to.
need to check again.
He sent a resume.
I did.
But did he fill out, I think people have to fill out,
He did.
go out and fill out the
Yeah,
form, right?
I think he did. Carlos, just let me know. I can tell you who it is, whatever. Is that legal?
Keep it a secret.
It was,
Fine.
it's,
I mean,
yeah, it was John Jacobs.
How about Stuart Cohn?
Well, I was thinking about him. However, think about this. Remember this whole thing about because he's my partner. So if I come off and then we have a project that we need to come forward, he can't be on because then neither can present. And then we have to have some other person present. So I think that,
hey, you guys were doing it. In
so we have to, am I right, Mark? Mark, I
Yeah,
think
the ethical rules unfortunately say that we can't
Right.
come before the commission for a year.
right,
So neither of them could come before the commission then.
right. And that just forget that. So
So if we have a recommendation, we just tell Carlos, is that right? Like a specific person?
Yes.
I think they have to
Yes.
fill out some stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you tell me the name and the contact, I can send them the link to the application with introduction paragraphs, paragraph guiding them and have been recommended by, Beth or Julie, whoever. And if they're interested to fill it out, send it to the mayor. So that's what we do normally. Hopefully they will do it, and hopefully the mayor will consider their application.
Was there anyone, while you were working with, I'm going to get it wrong, with Alderman Rue Simmons, was there anyone with that group or with like that shoreline or shorefront, like one of the historians that might be interested?
I can ask Dino and the alderman.
Yeah. We need some diversity on this
Yeah.
mission.
We need, we need a couple things. Number, we're going to lose a lot of expertise, and we could use some people that have, I'm concerned about
architects, Julie.
I'm concerned about people with no more knowledge than me doing this. In addition, yes, we need diversity. And the diversity, obviously could be, racial diversity, but, we had, for example, Carl was a realtor.
Yeah,
who I thought had a really good perspective. It doesn't have to be, it'd be better if it weren't all like, preservationists.
Yeah. Well, no, but I think we need, when Elliot and I go, I do think you need another architect.
I think we do.
And so what?
Ken is still there.
Another. I said another. And you're great. Another.
What about
But
Susie?
Oh.
Isn't Susie an architect?
Okay, well, sorry, misspoke, but whatever. Okay, I do really think this guy, John Jacobs, would be super great. So he sent his
if he's interested?
He is, yeah, because he filled paperwork out and he sent it back, he told me.
Okay.
So check it out.
If he's interested, even better.
He is very interested. He's super,
okay, so we just need to give him the information he needs.
I think he did already. I'll tell him again. Okay.
And anybody else, if you have any name, any person in your mind, let me know.
Okay.
Was there any other business, Carlos?
Scott, you had some information about some legislation about the virtual meetings that you want to share with the commission, or we, as far as calling the roll call and things like that?
Yeah, we can discuss that when we get to it. There's a Senate Bill 2135 is approved in the most recent Illinois legislature meeting. It just kind of formalizes some of the virtual meeting aspects and just includes a few additional rules there, like roll call votes and some of those items. So we'll get to those once that's signed.
Okay. Just want to make sure we cover everything. I don't have anything else to share with you or.
The awards are going to be postponed a year. Is that right?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. On the agenda, you have a note that the awards are going to be postponed 1 year.
Yes, the awards will be postponed to 2021. The lack of nominations was very clear. I waited as long as I could. The people I contacted, they seem to be okay with that. Actually, they said they make sense. So we will try to revamp the program next year. And, you know, kind of strategically try to get more nominations. And also, if you have any nomination or project in mind, just let me know. I can always contact the applicant or the architect to nominate the project.
Carlos, it's just, you know, these are tough times, and I just think a lot of people are preoccupied with different things, and that's all. It's just been,
I got the same feeling when I was, you know, trying to, I just, people are not engaged as much as where things were different. Hopefully next year will be different, but we'll see.
Yes.
But we're gonna try, continue the program. We will continue the program, it's just how the shape is gonna take.
You know what, can I just say this? I think that you can just write, because right now remember that roof, they need to get an award. That shingle roof they put on the house on.
Yes.
Euclid.
Yeah, that's one of the ones I thought we can nominate.
Yeah, for sure. Because that was, oh my God, labor of love.
That was, I went to see it at least a couple times, and
it's great. It's really good.
And to be honest, there was already areas that look wetter than other areas because the trees that are about. So
well, yeah, but they got to take, you know, whatever. They got to take care of those. But
I hope so.
Oh, all right. And you know, okay.
Why don't we adjourn? Motion to adjourn.
I second.
Motion.
Did anybody make it?
I motion to
Aleka made it. Julie second. We're adjourned. See you in. Hey guys, can you send an invite out for the mini retreat with the Zoom? Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Everybody be safe.
Okay. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, Scott. Thank you.